Jumbo, habari gani? It's your boy MongoSlade. I really don't have, I ain't got nothing. We started this, I don't have like literally, there's stories, I guess, we could go through here on this episode of live stream, but I don't got much else. You know, there's been some movement on one of WWE's lawsuits. It's been dropped, probably due to some kind of settlement, but we don't know that for sure. Um, there's been a bunch of little things. I guess you want to sit around and laugh about Billy Corgan, thinking that the NWA is going to be a big deal. And okay, I guess we could talk about Maven. Let's talk about Maven. How about that? His YouTube channel is very interesting. His YouTube channel is actually fun. Specifically the episode where he talked about how much he was paid. So I guess we could do that. We could also do some talking about ESPN and how they feel about WWE product and whether they want to get in on that, which of course they do, but they have an interesting problem. So I guess we'll just have a pastiche of a show with no real narrative direction. We just throw things at the wall and see what happens. There's no big shows this weekend. At least I don't think so. NWA show is not this weekend, is it? Um, I don't know. So, WG Phil, how you doing? Everybody else, how about Jumbo, Abarigani? So let's let's see what we can figure out here. Let's wrap this thing up. Okay, so I guess there is a couple of things that's worth discussing on in terms of doing a live stream. We're gonna start though with so the ESPN content president or whatever the hell talking about WWE because that was very interesting to read. It says ESPN's president of content discusses their view on being a potential distributor for WWE if their rights are available, which the rights are available. Okay. So Burke Magnus, which sounds like the name of a wrestler, but he's ESPN's president of content, did an interview with Richard Deutsch in which he talked about WWE. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he says, I believe our point of view towards WWE as a potential distribution outlet for their events, I think we passed that a long time ago. I think we're now in the bucket of, hey, if their rights are available and there's a deal for us that works and a deal for them that works with us, I think it's certainly a possibility. There's no hesitation anymore from a brand perspective or from a live event versus scripted. Their fans and our viewers, there's tremendous overlap to me. So it's just about the business of it and is there something that works? So let's stop right here because he's been talking about the hesitation to get into business with WWE due to from a brand perspective. Now I'm guessing what he means is WWE not being real and ESPN wanting to be the home of real sports. Very strange decision considering AWA was on ESPN a long time ago, like back in the early 90s. They still run AWA shows on what was this ESPN Plus or ESPN Classics or something like that. So I don't see what the big deal was, but him talking about giving the old business. Well, if there is a deal, if it makes sense for them and it makes sense for us, okay, that makes sense. I mean, it is what it is. So then he says, I may have said this to you last time we talked about it. To their credit, they run a 52 week a year business, right? And I'm thinking, well, let me start from a linear perspective. 52 weeks a year is impossible for us to do on almost any configuration based on the other rights that we have. So that actually cuts against us from a linear perspective. But on the digital side, if we were to do business with them on a streaming or direct consumer or distribution or pay-per-view distribution or other such thing, I think That's more easily achievable, and they have a great product. So I'll just leave it at that. So he's discussing. This is this is Burke Magnus. He's not a wrestler. He's the content president of ESPN. He's basically saying, based on all the other rights fees that they have, it is impossible for them to have a WWE show on a linear perspective. So they can't host a cable show 52 weeks a year. I think they have some Monday Night Football rights, so that's Mondays is out. And I doubt WWE, unless, the money is there, they're probably not going to move Raw off Mondays. And I think they also have like baseball and WNBA, and there's always something on ESPN certain nights of the week. So ESPN is kind of admitting that they're interested, but it would be in a streaming way. It would be in the way of some kind of other direct consumer product. It wouldn't be, is this a Disney office stooge? I don't know if he's a stooge, but he certainly works for Disney because he works for ESPN. But I think that he made a really logical argument. If ESPN can't fit WWE in on a television perspective, and that's what WWE wants, then they can't do business. There's nothing you can do from that perspective. They're probably just going to continue doing the few ESPN cross-ups that they do, where Stephen A. Smith talks to a WWE superstar or something like that. And that's it. But in terms of doing business, in terms of ESPN Plus or something like that, I would think they should. I don't know how long WWE's contract is with A&E, but I was thinking WWE should probably work together with ESPN on some 30 for 30 kind of documentaries. I know it just tells them to do the same ones that they've already done, like Undertaker and Steve Austin and The Rock. But, if there was to do like a 30 for 30 on certain events, maybe, like the very first In Your House or the first WrestleMania, even though I think they've done a documentary on the first WrestleMania. They've done a couple of documentaries on the first WrestleMania. So maybe WrestleMania 10 instead or something. I don't know. It could be interesting. But I just love 30 for 30, and I think it's very well done. But I can't see what kind of other deal they would have with ESPN. They can't do pay-per-view because Peacock is there. They could probably produce another show for ESPN. Maybe WWE can do some kind of ESPN show, that is directly for that product, and they can fit it in at some point. Maybe they could host like a Raw Talk or something like that on there. Could you imagine that? That you have like, well, they just fired a bunch of people over at ESPN, right? Max Kellerman being one of them. So you look at this situation where you got rid of like Max on Boxing and stuff like that, and then you replace it with like WWE Raw Talk, the SmackDown Lowdown. But I don't think they're going to be doing business with ESPN no time soon. It was just a cool what if, I think. I don't think ESPN is too much in the bed of the other leagues, especially, the NFL and the NBA. It's going to be hard to get in. Even the UFC have a difficult time finding footing when it comes to ESPN. AJ3 says, "Oh my God, Star wearing a black suit and black roses because Disney's going to be involved. Rest in peace, WWE was fun while it lasted." I don't think so. I think what he's basically saying is WWE would need to acquiesce to to streaming in order to do business with ESPN. Because he's saying from a linear perspective, they cannot host a 52-week-a-year show, due to other rights fees that are going to be more important. And WWE is already being bumped for preseason football on Fox, So, because I know that's one of the issues. Oh my God, SmackDown getting bumped for preseason football, for Christ's sake. So, they would definitely get, routed in ESPN. They'd probably be something that ESPN put on at 2:00 in the morning, like they used to do to K1. I used to love K1 when I was a kid, watching old Ernesto Hoost and Bob Sapp. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, but at least I could see it. You know, but I don't think so. I think ESPN is out. I don't think they're going to be involved with WWE unless they're involved on the streaming side, which they might be. I mean, you never know. They might want to move their Raw reruns from Hulu to ESPN Plus, maybe. You know, maybe that's what they want to do. I've talked about Sound of Freedom ad nauseum, so I'm not going to really go into that. But WWE on ESPN, that sounds interesting. Despite the fact that ESPN is shrinking, losing a lot of viewers and everything, it's still a very powerful force in sports and culture. And even though I don't really like the culture that ESPN promotes, it's still a powerful, voice in sports and culture. And WWE could use the exposure. Uh, I mean, pretty much they're both going woke as hell, so it's not even an argument from that perspective. It's not even an argument from that perspective. But I don't know. I don't think I want WWE in business with ESPN. I don't like the idea of Disney being too involved with WWE's product. But I don't mind like if ESPN wants to start like hosting events. You know, if they were to do like a Raw talk on ESPN, I wouldn't watch it because I don't watch those shows anyway. I just cannot stomach watching more wrestling. Beyond what I watch for recreation and what I watch for to do the channel, I really just can't stomach watching more wrestling. Like when it comes to watching wrestling recreationally, that's usually a it's an interesting bit. Let's put it like that. I don't watch wrestling nearly as much as I used to. Vegeta Lover 92 says, "What do you mean? RIP working with Disney isn't always bad." Um, it's not. Working with Disney isn't always bad, but doing business with Disney is making a deal with Mephisto. You know, you just never know what the nature of that deal is going to turn into. I mean, I could just tell you right now, it's not exactly going to be a fun time. Did I see Cody's vlog? I did not because I do not watch vlogs. Disney is pretty close to the devil. Disney is pretty bad. Everything that they've bought, they've butchered. That's just a fact. Anytime they bought the rights fees to something, they've butchered it. And to be fair, I think they've turned around and had to sell a lot of that stuff back. They're probably going to start selling some of their products now. They bought Fox, and now they're going to end up having to sell some of it because they overate. Now they're in like debt, losing money. So I would imagine that's why they would be considering doing business with WWE. They need something other than like the NFL and the NBA and stuff. But the one thing that works for WWE is the 52 weeks a year schedule, and it doesn't work for ESPN. It's just not going to work. But that doesn't mean that they can't maintain a healthy relationship. And I think they're probably going to have some kind of I think they're going to have some kind of business deal coming up in the future. It was a WrestleMania vlog. They're building to him winning. Well, I think that's pretty clear. Is that the one when Cody's walking down the street and some fan is like, "Hey, Cody, I just got tickets." Is that? I saw that clip, and I was just like, "Yeah, Cody Rhodes just walking down the street and some random guy was like, Cody Rhodes, I love you. Sign my titties." I do think that, it's clear they've been building them up to win the whole time. Everybody who keeps saying that there's no end in sight to the bloodline, it's like you ain't paying attention. You're not paying attention. If you pay attention to the story, this thing, you get the idea that Roman is not the dominant champion. He hasn't been a dominant champion in like 2 years. Almost all of his matches has been Roman almost loses and gets saved by the Usos. And now there's no Usos. So now there's Solo Sikoa. So now he has to get rid of, Solo Sikoa has to be taken out or taken away from him. And then Roman's a very beatable champion. And at that point, somebody can overthrow him, which is the story they've been telling for over a year, if you've been paying attention. And since it's a cohesive story that does not go across multiple promotions, it should be pretty easy to follow. Kingdom is going to go crazy at WrestleMania 4. I think that Cody's probably going to have a 10-minute celebration, bro. It's going to be like a prologue. Well, this prologue is before. It's going to be a 10-minute epilogue afterwards. For Edge's 25th anniversary, what are your top 5 matches? Oof. I think it would be easy to say TLC. That would be one of them. TLC 2 specifically would be one of them. I was always a fan of Edge versus John Cena from the Royal Rumble. I thought that was a good match. Edge versus Foley, WrestleMania 22. Edge versus I want to say Edge, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, but maybe not. I haven't seen that match in a long time. I haven't seen Edge versus Undertaker in a long time. Edge versus Eddie Guerrero from SmackDown was pretty good. I wish Edge and Kurt Angle had more matches. I'm talking about main event matches, not Edge is on the come up, kind of matches. Even though I think those were pretty good too. Yeah, Edge versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 24. It was pretty good. Only problem is I just knew Undertaker wasn't going to lose to Edge. So I was like, it took it away from me. And every time I watch it, I kind of think that. What was question 3 in the August Q&A? I would have to actually go and look. Let's see. We're going to talk about this. Oof. We're going to talk about. Oh shit. We're going to talk about the lawsuit being dismissed in a minute. But I'm about to read this question. Oh, question 3. Oh, there was no question 3. I forgot to put question 3. I had to look because I was like, I don't remember which one it was. I didn't put a question 3, so I guess instead of it doing 25 questions, only 24. Sorry, I don't have time to think of one on the square right now. I like Edge versus Undertaker. I like their feud. I thought it was fun. There's some guys I wish Edge would have had a chance to work with while he was out. CM Punk being top of that list. I definitely think we should have had an Edge CM Punk match. Man, that could have cooked. In like 2011 or 2012, that would have rocked. Edge versus Daniel Bryan would have cooked. I'm still kind of salty we never got Edge versus like Lashley. That could have been fun. So I guess we could talk about, since we're talking about Edge already, we can mention he did an interview where basically he says that this match with Sheamus is the last match on his current contract, which whenever somebody says that, they're kind of needling towards getting a new contract, which doesn't say that he's going to be done.
You said a phrase earlier in this conversation that's just like out to you, but you said, with regards to this match on Friday, you said fairy tale ending. And this to me plays into this idea. It plays into this idea people have been talking about. This might be the one where you leave your boots in the ring. What are your thoughts?
Here's what I can honestly say, and this isn't the answer that everybody's going to want. I truly don't know. I really, really can, with 100% truth, say I don't know. And that's strange for me but I don't. I really, really don't. I've put some thought into it, but not a lot. This is the last match on my current contract. So I don't know. honestly don't know. I probably won't know until I get to the locker room that night and just decompress, let all the anxiety and tension that I never used to have before I performed, I have now. And that's strange for me. And it makes it that much harder to do this. And I'm going to be 50 in October. You know, it's not easy anymore. Before, what I used to just take for granted to be able to do, now there's a process and there's a fallout and there's a lot, you know, and it's the dream gig, but again, it's getting really hard. Actually, I don't know. I probably won't.
Come on. All right. I don't know. You know, something tells me he's working here, and this probably is, but they probably already agreed to a new contract or some description. And I would imagine and to be interested in that, you know. I think I muted myself for a second. Did you guys hear anything I said? Anyway, I think Edge would be interested in continuing his career, but he probably don't want to wrestle as often. I mean, clearly he's talking about being 50, and yeah, he does look rough in the ring sometimes, but I think he'll be okay, and I think he will, you know, sign up to wrestle one more time. I don't think it'll be a long deal. I do think he'll probably push to WrestleMania, and then that'll probably be it. Edge Undertaker was 15 years ago today. The Hell in a Cell match? Because that was at SummerSlam, right? Edge Lashley would have been good. Yes, I agree. Trent says, can't see this being his last match. No way. Yeah, I mean, versus Sheamus? Versus Sheamus? I don't know. As I said, I think that it's going to end up being a series of matches with him and Sheamus. You know, probably going to, you know, help elevate Sheamus. And then by the time this feud is over with Sheamus, he'll probably be time for Rumble, time for Mania. And then that is it. WG Phil says he's probably waiting to see if Christian will sign back. Thinking that Triple H is going to give a shit about Christian? I don't know. I mean, a lot of people think that him and Christian are going to end up together in AEW or back in WWE. I don't know. I think I would actually not mind if Christian was Edge's last opponent. Like if Christian was to say, look, Edge is done. He's got one more in him. Either it's a tag team match with them as partners, which I think could also be a great end to Edge's career, is that if he ends it as a tag team with Christian. Let's say it's Edge and Christian versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. That could be fun. You know, for a tag team title or something like that. That could be fun. You know, it could be good stuff. But I'm not feeling the idea of Sheamus being his last opponent. I don't think so. That's just me. I don't think so. I don't know. Like I think he probably should start working tags if we're being honest. I think that the Judgment Day concept was a really great concept for him because it got him out of the ring, but it kept his name relevant. It kept his name out there, but he wasn't wrestling as much. He had to be a voice and a presence. So I don't know. Triple H re-signed Tegan Knox. He can give Christian a re-sign for the fans. Edge and Christian are not Edge and Triple H are not exactly friends. I think he probably felt like he owed Tegan Knox something, and I think that's kind of what it is with a lot of these re-signings. I think that a lot of them were basically he felt like he owed you something because you got cut so summarily from NXT or whatever, or the people that he dealt with personally when he signed them. And now all of a sudden he's kind of like, oof, Vince made me look bad because he fired all my guys. I got to make it up to them, so I'm gonna bring them back. And then he just paying them to sit at home. Like that's a waste of time if we're being honest. And it's not fair to the talent. I mean, Tegan Knox could be wrestling in front of 80,000 people in Wembley in a 6-woman tag at this point if she wanted to. I think she's good enough to be in the ROH scramble match, some GCW scramble. I don't know why he re-signed Tegan Knox. I have no answer to that question. I'm not even going to pretend that there's an answer to be had, if we're being honest, because I don't have one. I don't know. Like, if you asking me if Tegan Knox is useless, as of right now, yes. I haven't seen anything out of Tegan Knox that makes me say, man, I'm glad she's around. You know? I just don't have any feelings towards that at all. You know? WG Phil says, what is my thoughts on Lacey leaving? I'm kind of concerned. I was questioning whether she left on her own or whether she was fired. A lot of people told me that she was actually stepping back because she wants to run a coffee shop and, spend more time with her husband and family. She has a young family. She's only like 31 or 32. She could always come back to wrestling at that age if she wanted to. Take a couple of years off or whatever and pull a Michelle McCool and come back for the Royal Rumble, and that's about it. She always got that kind of cachet. But ultimately, I think that Lacey Evans had a tremendous amount of charisma, and they didn't know quite. And they found an outlet with the Sassy Southern Belle to get it to work, and she was getting a lot of really good reactions. The problem was people hated her politics, and she wasn't the best in-ring wrestler. That was always going to be a problem in the Triple H era, is that she's not a great in-ring wrestler. But when you look at, her career progression, it hit a fucking wall. The moment Triple H took over, she basically got taken off TV. Even when you talk about her aborted face push, when both times she was being turned face, ended up being an abortion. When she turned face against Bayley and Sasha Banks, that didn't quite work out. That didn't stick. And when she turned face to do the military gimmick, that didn't stick either. And I don't think that she had it in her to be a good baby face. Nor do I think people really appreciated what she brought to the table. But you can't say they didn't try, because they gave her the vignettes and she had some top feuds with like Charlotte and stuff. So she had some interesting career, and it could have been better. I know that they were planning to have her and Charlotte wrestle at WrestleMania, and then she ended up getting pregnant, and that probably killed it. But she was never going to become a top girl with Triple H around. It just wasn't going to happen, because Triple H is going straight to his girls now. Rhea Ripley is being super pushed mainly because she's a Triple H girl. It's one of those people that him and Vince agreed on with Rhea Ripley, I think. Vince was probably trying to make Rhea earn it a little bit more, but I think they agreed that Rhea Ripley was a star. I'm not exactly sure they agree on like Bianca Belair. I'm not sure they agree, because look at how they booked Bianca since Triple H took over. She won the title just to lose it to Io, and then she didn't appear on SmackDown afterwards to complain about the loss. I would expect she's going to be on SmackDown tomorrow, though. And hold on, I got interrupted here. Do you think Nikita Lyons' politics would get her in trouble? I don't think so. What I think it is that Nikita Lyons is 99% look. If you look at the girl, you're like, oh my fucking God. She needs to be on TV literally all the time. But in the work rate era, which you could tell when they started entering the work rate era, and Nikita Lyons push disappeared too. I'm not so sure it's going to work because her work does not look that great. She's not there yet in the work. And Gigi Dolan is another perfect one. Like the work comes along, people get into it with the personalities. Just imagine if Triple H was booking when John Cena was just getting started. He'd still have been doing jobs in 2006. He'd have still been Intercontinental Champion in 2007. He wouldn't have got anywhere. Because Triple H always has that they aren't ready attitude, and never striking when the iron's hot because he wants to go with somebody else. Yeah, Nikita Lyons is always injured because she keeps doing them damn splits with that big ass upper body she got. And she got a big ass body and she keeps jumping on her hamstrings. She probably should stop doing that. But I saw people talking today. Well, probably not today. It's probably yesterday about Randy Orton becoming the world heavyweight champion, and I think it was one of the anniversary of that. And the conspiracy theory that they were only doing that to spite Brock Lesnar instead of paying attention to the story that they were telling, where Benoit couldn't had Triple H's number, but then Randy Orton beat him, and then they started telling the story of Randy not being an acceptable babyface, and they took the title from him and all this kind of stuff because he wasn't ready. The idea of it was Randy was still being a dickhead too, by the way. Like he still had behavioral problems and stuff like that. But it fit the evolution story that Randy Orton is supposed to be the future of the business. And that's what they all agreed on. Flair and Batista and all these guys agreed that Randy Orton was the future. And the future came sooner than Triple H wanted it to. And he figures, I can't beat Chris Benoit. How can this kid beat him? And to be quite honest, I should do a roots of storytelling on that. I haven't done one of those in a while. But I really consider that story, But I don't think it. I think it. The idea that they did this just to undercut Brock Lesnar, it's like, who the fuck cares about that kind of stuff, really? I don't think they care about that shit. The thing is, they wanted Randy Orton to be the top star. They had been earmarking Randy Orton since he came in to be a top star, and they shoved him and pushed him and was going to go there with him. But he still has so many behavioral problems that even when they made the decision to put the belt on him, the idea was for him to be a transitional champion, for him to break through, become a main event guy, and then work with Evolution, work against Evolution. That he was going to feud with every other member of Evolution. There's no doubt in my mind that the original plan was for Randy to wrestle Triple H at WrestleMania that year, which would have been WrestleMania 22, right? Yeah, I think it would have been WrestleMania 22 or 23, one of the two. And no, it wouldn't have been that. It would have been 2021, right? It would have been 21, right? Yeah, 21, yeah, because he wrestled Undertaker. Yeah, it was probably supposed to be Orton versus Triple H at WrestleMania 21. And Orton's going to win the title, and go off and be a star. And it didn't work because Randy was immature. He had a bunch of behavioral problems. He kept getting popped for different things and stuff like this. And he ended up getting sort of de-pushed because they moved him to SmackDown. He got to work with Undertaker. So we had another governor on him, another veteran to watch him and all this kind of stuff. But the idea that Randy wasn't ready is like, it's literal and it's kayfabe. But in kayfabe, you can look at it and understand that Evolution was about the business going forward. And when the business started to actually go forward, you started seeing Evolution turn on Randy. And that was the story that they were going with. The abortion of that story, however, can be directly tied to Randy Orton's behavior. And it's just kind of how it is, He was admittedly not a very good baby face. You know, he was the shits as a baby face, if we're being honest. But he won the title as a heel and then turned face the next night. So people loved Randy Orton as a heel, but they tried to push him as a babyface and it didn't work. So we're kind of tying into the whole thing with Lacey Evans right now, where, you know, as a heel, Lacey Evans works. As a babyface, not so much. And that's what we were going with here. At SummerSlam 2004, Orton walked into that match as a heel. Then he won the match clean. And people started to respect him. He even shook Benoit's hand and all that kind of stuff. It instantly turned him into a top guy, which was Benoit's job. Benoit's job was always to make other people look good, and he did a good job at that point in time. So then the heel turn for Triple H the next night, which was basically a babyface turn for Orton because he was already a heel. It was telling you where they were going. Because again, they did a similar thing at SummerSlam. They do that a lot, you know. SummerSlam is usually the launching pad for where we're going towards WrestleMania. It's very, very weird if you actually look at SummerSlams until where we're going for WrestleMania usually happens at SummerSlam in some way. So you could tell Orton winning the title was the lead in to his feud with Evolution, which they actually went through with. He had that great cage match with Ric Flair at, what was that, Cyber Sunday or something like that. I believe he wrestled Batista around that same time. Then he ended up wrestling Triple H. I think they had was it a last man standing match? No, that was Shawn Michaels. They had that terrible match at the Royal Rumble. That wasn't very good. I don't think they had good matches against each other, if we're being honest. And that was it. Then he got, you know, shuffled over to SmackDown to feud with Undertaker. But I think that was mostly his behavioral issues that derailed that storyline. But if you look at it, Taboo Tuesday, okay, it's the same damn Cyber Sunday, Taboo Tuesday, it's the same fucking show. And that was the thing. And I think that was pretty obvious, is that if you pay attention to the story, it was clear that it was going with Triple H versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania, and then it was aborted. And because you have to get there, you know, and Randy Orton's behavioral problems just would not allow it to happen. So they aborted it. I don't think it had anything to do with fucking over Brock Lesnar, because I don't think Brock cares, and the fans didn't care. So it's like, when you think about those kinds of records, like youngest champion and all that kind of stuff, it's like, you have to be really deep in the wrestling bubble to give a fuck about that. Like, really deep. You know? It could be a nice push, I guess. Like, you know, Gunther winning the Intercontinental title and holding it to be the longest reigning of all time. It's a good push for him because he's just getting started on the main roster. You know, just like Randy Orton being Intercontinental champion a long time, dropping the belt, and then almost immediately moving up to the world title was a good push because he was just getting started for real. Because even though he started 2 years before that, he was injured for a long time. And they started immediately using, especially when they turned him heel, they almost immediately started using him in a top storyline. Like, he joined Evolution. He was in that the heinous Elimination Chamber match at SummerSlam 2003. That match was heinous. That match sucked. But they put him in it. You know, they always believed in Randy, but it was clear that it wasn't going to work because he had a bunch of other problems that was happening, and he wasn't going to make a good babyface. You know, the only other option you had, though, is to have all of them turn on Triple H and turn Triple H babyface, and had Triple H versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21 with Triple H being the babyface. I don't think anybody would have liked that. But something just tells me, if you just watch that story, that everything that they did with Cena, they were going to do the Cena Orton parallel, because they always wanted Cena and Orton to parallel. It got aborted and turned to Batista instead. So it is what it is. Worked out well for Dave, you know, Grandpa Dave, because he ended up being older and more mature and could handle the spotlight a little bit better. And his babyface turn actually stuck because people was actually far more interested in him as a babyface. And they did a good job of building him up as a babyface too. They did a really good job. But they did the same thing. Had him fight Flair, had him fight Triple H, and then he wins the title. They did the same thing with Randy Orton just a couple of months prior. So you could tell that Batista just got Randy's push. It's that simple. It ain't got nothing to do with Brock Lesnar. At least I don't think so. Why would it? Who the fuck cares about that? All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this lawsuit getting tossed out. How is Gunther old? He's like, what, 34, maybe? 35? I don't think he's older than 35. And plus, he's not going to be around forever anyway. I don't think. But I bet he's glad that the motherfucker he decided to stay in the United States now. Because I know that his whole thing before is he didn't want to be in the United States. And then he was like, screw it. I'm moving to the States. I'm going to get in shape. He actually did it. Ended up working out great. Gunther is another one of those guys I think that both Triple H and Vince agreed on, which is why his push seems to be going so well. It seems that if everybody agrees that you're a star, your push does not seem to be too affected. If there's one or the other who's not really quite sure of you, then your push is, Sami Zayn being one of them. I think Triple H loves the guy, but clearly he's not going to be main event of WrestleMania, top star Sami Zayn. He's not by himself. The Bloodline story, he earned his main event at WrestleMania, but him winning the world title in Montreal, again, are you going to live in Montreal? No. So, shit. But you could complain, I think, and look at how the steam has been taken out of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens since they won those titles. Yeah, Gunther has always booked to be, an unstoppable killing machine. We're not subjected to Johnny Gargano yet. They're starting it now, though. They're going to start it soon. I think Vince's spinal thing, his spinal got taken out and put it back in or whatever. I think it's going to lead to a lot of decisions. Going to leave you it's going to find a hard reason to smile. All right, so let's talk about this Brittany Abrahams, because she filed what's called a notice of voluntary dismissal. So it says, quote, plaintiff Brittany Abrahams by and through her attorneys, the Cochran firm, hereby give notice that the above captioned action is voluntarily discontinued without prejudice as to all claims and causes against actions against the defendants Chris Dunn, Ryan Callahan, Jennifer Pepperman, Christine Lubriano, Mike Heller, Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, with each party bearing the party's own attorney's fees and costs. Dismissal is proper under this section because the defendants have not yet answered the complaint in this matter. Oof. So she withdrew her lawsuit. This is the racial discrimination lawsuit for the girl who stole chairs. A lot of people think that it's a settlement, some kind of out-of-court settlement that took place. WWE never responded, and these individuals never responded, as they said. She does not deserve a dime, if we're being honest. She doesn't deserve anything. But I would not be surprised if she didn't get some kind of settlement. Because WWE is getting like Turner and WCW, where they are just basically willing to cut the cash and go on about their business. So something tells me she probably got something out of this deal, and she just decided to drop it. Because something tells me she wouldn't have decided to drop it on her own. So this whole thing is over. Do we know anything about monies that might have been shifted from one person to the other? I think there's probably going to be a Q&A about it on the next conference call. They're probably going to be asked about it if they sign some kind of settlement with her. And anything other than no is going to be considered a yes. So if they say no comment, that's probably going to be a yes. If they say yes, that's a yes, But I think we'll see. Yeah, DIY is coming. DIY is coming. Mo the Killer. Is Dominic Mysterio, Austin Theory next John Cena and Randy Orton? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Uh, I don't know how long this Dominic Mysterio thing can last, if we're being honest. Everybody hates the guy. He's doing a really good job, but it can't last forever. You know? So I think we'll have to see how he grows once Rhea Ripley's gone. Once they break up him and Rhea Ripley, which probably won't be anytime soon, we'll see how much steam Dominic Mysterio has by himself. You know, which they'll probably just put somebody else with him if they're smart. You know, they just put somebody else with him. Austin Theory, however, now some people are saying that Austin Theory is probably miscast as a heel and he probably should be a babyface. Look, at this point, bro, I can't give you an I. It's hard for me to say because it's clear that the kid has pretty much everything that you need to be a top star in WWE. Everything except the opportunity. Smart Money would have put him on Raw and had him wrestling for that World Heavyweight title, and he'd been right in the middle of it, right in the midst of it, and that's what Smart Money would have done. Smart Money would have had him keep the Money in the Bank briefcase and not utilize it for the fucking U.S. title. You know what? Every time I keep hearing certain podcasters, man, keep it like, that was so smart. It was the best thing to do. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? What is wrong with, like, who the fuck ever thinks that cashing in your briefcase on a mid-card title and then losing it was good? That's quite frankly some of the dumbest shit in the world. If they'd have done that to CM Punk or Bryan Danielson, people would have shit themselves in fury at that. But because it happened to Austin Theory, it was so smart. He wasn't ready yet. He wasn't ready yet. Like, who gives a fuck? That wasn't even the point. We're not even saying he should have been a world champion. Because, Reigns was the only world champion at the time. He could have cashed in the Money in the Bank and then lost. I mean, it's that simple. People have done that before. But the complete overhaul of his character where he disappeared for weeks and weeks and now I'm a man now because I have grown a beard. It's like, oh, no. No. It sucks. It sucks. They got to get their heads out of their asses with Theory. And that's why I'm actually very, very afraid for Braun Breaker. I am very afraid for Braun Breaker. I am not thrilled about what's going to happen to Braun Breaker when he comes up to the main roster, dog. Because the reason why everybody became so impressed with Braun is because Vince McMahon saw this guy. He's jacked. He looks good. He's young. His stuff looks good. His moves and stuff. Strap the fucking rocket to him. Have Tommaso Ciampa lose to him twice. Piss everybody off. And then have the kid still hold the title and earn respect. Now you have people who, I hate NXT Black and Gold. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. Back. Yeah, good. Yeah, back and go up. I hate NXT 2.0, the Nickelodeon stuff. I hate it so much. But they love Braun Breaker because they knew what it was when the truth cannot be denied, right? That nigga's the truth, right? So you can't deny it. All the people who are the biggest Kyle O'Reilly fans in the world were like, Braun's the truth, dog. You just watch like 2 or 3 matches. He got it. What has he been doing like the past couple of months? Nothing. Losing and shit. I'm okay with him losing. It is what it is with that. He's a heel, so he's bound to lose a little bit more than he should. And they're trying to move him away from the title. But I just fear that he's gonna go to the main roster and get booked like Karrion Kross. You know what I'm saying? It's just ew. Just fucking ew. You know what I'm saying? He gonna get booked like Bronson Reed. You know? I'm deeply concerned about Braun Breaker, bro. I'm deeply concerned about Braun Breaker, bro. After seeing what they did to Austin Theory, I'm deeply concerned about Braun Breaker. Oh my god, I'm just so concerned that Braun Breaker's going to be a guy who's going to be on the upswing, and then he going to go drop 3 straight to Johnny Gargano. And they're going to be like, oh, it was 5-star matches, but he lost all of them, and he looked like a fucking goof the whole time. I fear that as soon as he get on Monday Night Raw, they're gonna do. Look at what they doing with Grayson Waller. What are they doing with him? How are they cashing in on Grayson Waller being, verbally amazing? How did they cash in on Grayson Waller interacting with The Rock? They didn't. I am deeply concerned about what they're gonna do with Braun Breaker. I'm deeply concerned about that. Trick Williams too. Deeply concerned about Trick Williams. Deeply concerned about Trick Williams. Not so much about Carmelo Hayes. I'm not too concerned about him for some reason. But AJ3 says Brian Russell for the North American title. It is kind of a demotion, or at least keeps him in NXT for a long while until they decide to call him up. Because that means he got to wrestle Dominic Mysterio. No. No. He just turned heel. Just put him in some personal feuds and, or put him on ice for a little while. Put him in the tag team division for a little while. Get him a tag team partner. Put him in the tag division for a while. Let him wrestle Tony D'Angelo and Stacks, and he could be tops over there. Bronson Reed, he lost to Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm sorry. I don't know, man. I don't know. Bronson Reed, he loses a lot. He loses a lot, man. And he doesn't appear on TV enough either. He doesn't do anything. He just comes across like he was starting to get over with his big tsunami move too. And then yoink, just pulled the rug right from underneath him. They're gonna need to reconfigure all of WWE once the Bloodline story is over. Once Cody is the world champion, I think a wave of good feeling and a breath of fresh air will finally come into that company. Look, I love the Bloodline, I really do. But as long as Roman is the champion, there's a miasma over on SmackDown where it's a chokehold on the top of the roster. And you can't do much of anything until Roman has been displaced. So maybe there are some people that are on the lower card that are really ready for Roman and Brock and all these guys to go away. And it becomes like that. It gets like that. Like there was a group of people on the undercard waiting for Hogan and Warrior and Savage and all those guys to get moved out of the way. And it ended up happening. It ended up being that hard split, that New Generation era. That was a hard split. From New Generation to Attitude Era was a soft split. That 80s to New Generation, that was a hard split. that was rough. All right. that transition from Vince Senior to Vince Junior, that was a hard split. That was a harsh one. But there was no harsh move from between generations. Usually there's one or two guys that stick around. There was almost nobody from the 80s that was still there in like 93, 94 to help put people over. There was almost none. Kurt Hennig was there, but he had like back injuries. He couldn't do too much. Roddy Piper was in and out. Jake Roberts didn't come back until 96, and then it was too late. There was no Savage to put anybody over, and Savage wanted to put people over, and Vince was like, nope. We hard splitting this. Hogan's gone, Warrior's gone, you're gone. Piper threatened to retire in like 88 or something like that, so he's virtually gone. They had to start from scratch, And I'm thinking It ain't gonna be that hard this time, I don't think. I think once Roman has moved on and Brock has moved on and Cody becomes like situated as the top guy, he's probably gonna get his match with John Cena. And then once Edge is gone and Cena's gone and Batista's already gone, when Orton's gone, it's gonna be a different ball game. It'll be a different generation. And I think there's people sitting around right now waiting for that to happen. You know? And that's why I think there's a lot of girls sitting in that locker room right now saying, can't wait for Charlotte to get gone. Can't wait for Becky to go. Just Sasha Banks did us a favor. She took herself out of the gene pool, But Charlotte, Becky, got Bailey, need to get you out of the way. And that's the nature of the beast, man. The business the WWE moves slow because crowds become more familiar with talent. And they hold on to talent longer than they probably should, And that's probably why you had Undertaker wrestle for like 2 or 3 years where he probably shouldn't have been wrestling. Why Goldberg was still going when he shouldn't have been. The WWE audience will hold on to you longer than you probably. If you get over in a major way with WWE, the audience will lift you up and carry you the rest of the way. They're doing that to Edge right now. Edge is not doing anything phenomenal right now. He's doing everything pretty good, but he's not doing anything phenomenal. He's not really striking any new ground. I think Judgment Day was his last chance, and he didn't do that very long. He's coasting a lot on crowd energy. CM Punk is, kind of one of those guys too, over in AEW, where the crowd is willing him forward. They're holding on to him. They won't let him go. So it's going to be hard to get people to let go. They're still chanting one more match at The Rock and shit. It's like, come on, man. Rock, whatever. But once they finally let that stuff go, let these people go, then you'll probably have more stars. Then you will probably see something come out of Austin Theory. Then I wouldn't be too concerned about Braun Breaker because there wouldn't be a lot of people eating up a lot of real estate. But as long as the Judgment Day is getting 35 minutes a night, where's the room to push anybody else? As long as the top of the show belongs to the Usos and Roman, what else can you do? Really? I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, though. I'm just saying that there's guys who are looking for real estate in the main event or in the mid card, and they can't. They just can't. There's no way forward. You got to start moving people out of the way. That's what baffled people so much about the Rey Mysterio winning the U.S. title. They were like, holy shit, we thought you was moving Rey out of the way. We thought the whole point of you bringing in the LWO was so that we can finally push somebody other than Rey Mysterio. Wrong. It was about pushing Rey Mysterio. But I think that he's going to end up, putting somebody over and making a new star and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what Rey does. Rey's not selfish like that. But again, Santos Escobar has to turn heel, man. So that means you got to have a face. So hopefully that's where we'll get Dragon Lee. I'm going to keep being biased towards Dragon Lee until something actually happens for him. Vegeta Lover 92 says Bianca and Rhea can't be the only two built right now, but they kind of are. Well, yeah. Yeah, they're the only two. They're the only two ready. They don't give anybody else a chance. They snuffed out most people, from being a top star. They pretty much snuffed them out. The tag team, that's the one positive thing about the tag team division, is that if there was no women's tag team titles, there would be nowhere for somebody like Chelsea Green to show what she can do. That's the only positive to have these extra belts, is that it gives an opportunity to somebody who is not quite world champion level yet. And maybe they're not even mid-card champion level yet. But they can do something. They have something. And you can that's why I always say all the time, there's too many girls for you not to have a tag team division. There's no reason Tegan Knox can't be in a tag team, or Xia Li or Aaliyah or whatever, to give them some kind of it's fertile ground for them to do more, you know. But I don't know. I expect Rey Mysterio to be some kind of transitional champion. Mo the Killer thinks that he's going to drop it to Grayson Waller. I would not hate that, but everybody's going to say, why not LA Knight? That's going to be like the big question. Why not LA Knight? That's kind of my question though. Like, I thought the whole point of Santos Escobar winning the thing was that he was going to win the title and be the heir apparent to Rey Mysterio and all this kind of stuff. And unless he's going to lose it to Santos, I don't see what he won it for. You know, even if he loses it to Grayson Waller, or if he loses it back to Austin Theory, you know, because they've turned LA Knight face, so they're gonna have LA Knight be Ray. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. I'm guessing Santos Escobar is gonna have to turn on him. That's what I'm thinking. I'm pretty sure when Ray won, I was pretty sure he was gonna be transitional. I pretty much said that in my heart of hearts that he was gonna be transitional because it was too obvious at that point. That Ray wasn't supposed to be the champion unless that was the plan all along, which I don't think so, and I hope not. But something tells me that Friday we're gonna start seeing what direction they're going in. I'm almost certain they're going to go in. Santos Escobar is going to get jealous and angry and turn on Ray. Third Right Wing says, put the Rockets to Thea, JC Jane, Nikita Lyons. Hopefully they don't screw them up. It would be nice if JC Jane was utilized more on NXT. Wouldn't that be nice? It's a very that was the thing that I liked about NXT is that it was different booking than main roster WWE. Now it all feels the same, and that's what they want. They want it to be smooth transitions from NXT to the main roster without really realizing that one of the benefits is having a fresh set of eyes on you. You know, that while Triple H was obsessed with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor, there were people bubbling underneath that had something going on. And then Vince would catch it. You know? He would see something in a person nobody else would see, and he would catch it and try to utilize that. And to be quite honest, part of the Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is a perfect example. You know, he is not going to be main event. Well, he probably gets paid like a main event wrestler, but he's not going to be a perennial main event guy. He is a upper mid card guy, right? He mid card slides down, kind of like the Miz. And Vince always had a vision for those guys and always found a place for them. That's why Hardcore Holly could be around for 10 years and Rikishi and all those guys. You know, like, name your 10 favorite Rikishi matches. The fucking guy was there for 20 years. You probably only know like 3 of his matches. That's what Baron Corbin's career was going to be. That's what it was supposed to be. And people are kind of bitching and complaining about that. Like, I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with having, I call them offensive linemen. I'm okay with that. A guy you could put anywhere on the roster. He could do comedy. He could do serious stuff. He could do this. He could do that. A utility player. I'm cool with utility players. That's why I like Lacey Evans. No, she was not going to main event WrestleMania. She didn't need to. Not everybody needs to be the top star. No, not everybody needs to be that. They need to just have their own lane, their own island, something that they can do better than everybody else. And they have their part of the show. That's all you really need is your little piece of the show, whatever it is. When you try to force everybody to play the same position, that's when you start seeing a lot of people flop and fail. You know, you push people beyond their their level of expertise, and beyond that, what their potential actually is. Having an extra set of eyes to evaluate talent actually helps quite a bit. Just think, I mean, again, you could take probably 4 or 5 people, you know, and say Triple H looked at them this way, Vince looked at them this way, and you can see which one of them was right. And I'm not saying that Vince was always right. He was wrong sometimes. But Shayna Baszler, who is a 36-year-old mixed martial artist, doesn't have the best look, it doesn't have the best verbal skills, but in a work rate promotion, she could get over. So she was in NXT, she was far more over. She gets to be the unstoppable beating machine in NXT. Okay, it works there. It didn't translate to the main roster. It didn't really translate. They tried to find some way of spicing her up, making her interesting. And then they stripped away all of that stuff. Didn't work. And then they had her doing comedy with Nia Jax. Then she was in a tag team. Was she on a tag team with Natalia or something? Like, the average WWE audience has a different taste. And Vince was, because he cultivated that taste, and let's be fair, he was more aware of it, you know? And so you see that Triple H was trying to sculpt and mold Shayna Baszler when the gym was Bianca Belair, and she got almost no time at all in NXT. She was barely there, you know? She got a short push here and there, but she was never the champion. She was never the top star, and she was probably never going to be. Then when you had Alexa Bliss, again, not a top star in NXT, but Vince saw something. You know, the promo, the marketability, her look, how she can get under people's skin. There was a positive there. He saw that she could do multiple things. She could do comedy. You know, she could do tag team stuff. She was a utility player. And Vince plucked that out and put it onto this show, and she ended up with a pretty good career. Even if she doesn't wrestle another match, she had a pretty good career. Now look what Triple H is doing. They went through all the trouble of pushing Indy Hartwell, nothing. Candice LeRae, nothing. Dakota Kai, nothing. Tegan Knox, nothing. You know, this guy's had control of the company for a year. And the only person he managed to really get behind was Rhea Ripley, which is a no-brainer, you know? Now he's decided he's going to go with Io. Look, I like Io, but again, I'm thinking, I'm not sure how the mainstream WWE audience is going to respond to Io, especially when she's by herself, when she doesn't have Bayley anymore. I'm really thinking about what that's going to be, and that ought to be interesting, you know. And that's why I say I'm so concerned about like Braun Breaker and people like that, because it's clear to a lot of folks that there's something going on, and then they'll get on the main roster and they'll get exposed. I mean, look at Keith Lee. I was even on the Keith Lee bandwagon. I gotta put my hand up too. I was in the Keith Lee bandwagon. He's not even making it in AEW now. Wow, you know. But there was a lot of people that I think Vince didn't give much of a chance to. Swerve being one of them. I don't think he gave Hit Row any chance at all. I don't think he liked it. You know, I don't think he got it. And it turns out that Hit Row was still a miss, even without Swerve and no Swerve. It was just a miss, you know. And having that extra set of eyes, that more experienced set of eyes who is looking at something from a different perspective, it's just, it's different, you know. If everybody is evaluating talent the same way, you're not going to get a well-rounded show. You can end up with AEW, a bunch of people who damn near look the same, that are indiscriminate from one another, and well, Tegan Knox was injured a lot in NXT. If we're being fair, she was injured a lot in NXT, and she kept getting pushed when she did come back. She kept getting those big comeback pushes and stuff, and she had that long feud with Dakota Kai, but she was injured a lot. So, but she almost got no chance on the main roster. They brought her up and was like, I don't know what to do with this. What is this? What do we do? But there's people that Vince have tried and it didn't work, and then there's other people that Vince have tried and that didn't work, and then there's times where Vince was probably listening to Triple H, and I think the Shinsuke Nakamura push, him winning the Royal Rumble and everything, was Vince listening to Triple H, and that's what I think it is. I think Triple H was in his ear about how Nakamura was going to change the game and yada yada yada, so he put him over Orton and Cena in like the same month. It was crazy. That push was nuts. And he never got to that point. It's just, everybody was like, oh, he should have won the title. I don't know. Did he really need to win it? I don't think he needed to win. The point was to see what he's got. You know, that was the point. Vince is always like, okay, the story's never over. If Nakamura would have performed up to Vince's level or what he expected, he would have gave him the title. But he never felt that he got there. And then he kind of figured that Nakamura was a solid mid-card player. Over with the audience, but not over enough to be the world champion. So he's the Intercontinental champion. He's a United States champion. They kept him with a belt. They kept him on TV. They kept him prominent, but they never, ever decided they were going to push him like that again. He was not going to beat John Cena again. They're not beating Randy Orton again. And that was that. Okay? That was that. They decided. He's Dolph Ziggler level. All right? And while I was a big fan of him in New Japan, I understand not everybody's going to be at the top at the same time. Okay, it is what it is. You know? But I know a lot of people were very, very upset that he lost to Jinder Mahal. I wasn't, because I like Jinder Mahal. You know? Jinder Mahal was a good role player. I was just talking about that. You know? AJ3 says Triple H was a good cop to Vince's bad cop, but now who's going to be the good cop for Triple H? That is a good point. You know, everybody was sitting back saying, "Oh, Papa H is going to save you." You know, go back down to NXT. He's going to save you. All right, but now what? Now it's one vision. So if you don't get pushed in NXT, what's the likelihood of you getting pushed on the main roster? You know, slightly better or slightly worse, because there's more stars on the main roster. So that means you have to be more forceful in pushing people. You know? And I think Vince realized that. You can't come on the main roster in dribs and drabs. That's what Triple H has been doing. We're going to keep reintroducing Bronson Reed over and over again. He comes on, he disappears, he comes back, we do a vignette, then we don't follow up, we don't have a storyline. He's working with the Miz, then he's not. He's crushing Tommaso Ciampa, then he's losing to him. He's crushing Shinsuke Nakamura, then he's losing to him. We're going to reintroduce him with a vignette. We're going to bring him back, then we're gone again. It's like, you can't do that. If you're going to push the fucking guy, you need to push him. All right? You need to be decisive. And that was the one thing I really liked about Vince. Even when he was wrong, I felt like he was wrong. I felt like he was at least decisive. Like, he made the fucking decision. John Cena was going to be the man. So he was going with it. It wasn't no wishy-washy. It wasn't no will they, won't they. He was going with it. You know, he made up his mind, rightly or wrongly. He's going with it. So when you see what happens when Vince starts to teeter-totter, get right back, you know. They looked like they was going with him. They're going with him. And then, I don't know. Yes, right back losing to Mark Henry. You're like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't know about that. But I haven't felt like Triple H has gotten behind anybody yet since he took over, other than Rhea Ripley. I don't think he's really gotten behind anybody. I think he's mostly maintained the status quo. The same people were over 3 years ago that are over now. The Usos, Roman, Rhea. I guess the new one is Dominic and Cody. And Cody, because he wasn't here, wasn't there rather, 3 years ago. But, he's using the same characters. Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Riddle, Asuka, same people. He hasn't gotten behind anybody yet and believed in them and smashed them over yet. He hasn't done it yet. I'm waiting for it too. I'm waiting for that. Third Right Wing says, you are describing Lacey Evans' career. Well, she's done with wrestling. How can a company lose Lacey and Mandy in the same year, leaving creative on the table? I mean, it's bizarre. It's very bizarre. But that's that work rate mindset. You don't see the value in people who can't, who are sloppy with their kip ups or whatever. I mean, fuck, who cares, man? Like, you need to start looking at star quality and charisma and stuff like this. That's why I say, it's despite the fact that I say I'm concerned about Brian Breaker, the person that I'm really most concerned about is Nikita Lyons. I don't think she's going to last long at all on the main roster. Same thing with Gigi Dolan. I don't see them lasting long at all on the main roster because the looks do 90% of the work when it comes to both of them. That's like Toni Storm when she was in NXT. Toni Storm could actually wrestle though, but she wasn't really a good promo. So she was 90% look. And you see how they used her in NXT, which virtually didn't use her at all, And then she moved up to the main roster and it was kind of more of the same. They seemed like they wanted to do something with her, but they wanted to take her temperature first and then she quit. So I guess they was right. They took her temperature, put a little thermometer in her mouth. Her shit was a little high. It was a little high. They decided to hit her in the face with a couple of pies, and then she was like, I'm out of here. I quit. They were like, yeah, we tested it, and turned out we were right. She's a bitch. But it was cool. You need to have the extra set of eyes. You got to have a different set of eyes, man. TN Pyro thinks Shawn and Triple H have different visions. I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. What's the difference? Both of them have work rate guys at the top right now. All of them do, except Roman. And Roman was in that spot before Triple H got there. I can almost guarantee you Roman wouldn't be in that spot. If he was being called up right now on the main roster, he would not be a top guy. It probably still would have been Seth. But Roman, probably not. Because Seth is a Triple H guy. He always has been. And Roman's a Vince guy. Always has been. So we're going to see what's going to happen when Roman's gone. When the bloodline story is over. We're going to see, for real, who Triple H's guys are. It's not going to be Cody. I don't think Triple H is going to be in the Cody bandwagon. It's going to be who he's going to put in the ring opposite Cody. That's what we're going to be looking at. Because I'll almost tell you, straight up front, Kevin Owens is getting a title shot as soon as Cody wins the belt. And that was it. That's going to be it. And they were right to be scared. All those indie bums, they had a right to be scared. All of them were they were interchangeable, like almost literally. That do I think Vince was batting 1,000? No, I think he dropped the ball with Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode was a little old. That's like I think LA Knight's a little old. And Vince was like, I don't know if we can go with him. He looks great. He can talk. He's got a gimmick. He knows who he is. But the guy's 38 or 37 or something like that. I don't, you know? So Vince was probably waffling on the age thing. And I think that age thing became a thing for Damian Priest and Keith Lee and Riddle and all those guys too. So that's why you blew it up and started all over again. But then when you got Tommaso Ciampa, who I like, Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, like all of these dudes, they don't jump out at you as being WWF superstars. They're not gonna. Are these the guys you put on Wheaties boxes and you want to make action figures and put them in video games and comic books and the merchandising of it? Nah, I ain't seeing it. That's like I'm sitting back here because I've been one of Bianca Belair's biggest fans for a long time. And I'm seeing how she's been, I don't want to say de-pushed because that's not the right term. She's been moved aside. And maybe she should have been because she was champion for a long time. And that was the right thing to do. But then you look at the merchandising opportunities that are there in terms of they're doing all kinds of outside the ring stuff with Bianca Belair. And yet on the show, she doesn't matter at all. She's not that important to the show. Even when she was the champion, she wasn't that important to the show. And that sucks. Because how can you ignore that? It's not Zack Ryder we're talking about here. We're not talking about somebody who sells a bunch of T-shirts to, the T-shirt buying crowd. We're talking about somebody with some mainstream potential here. And we're going to go in the opposite direction. We're not going to lean towards the mainstream potential. We're leaning towards the more niche potential of Io Shirai, where she's a work rater. And look, there's nothing wrong with Io. I love Io. She's great. But it was pretty clear to me that the fans like her, but I don't know if they like her that much. And what is her crossover potential? And I think they're going to try to create something with her, especially in Japan, to make her a crossover star, like they did with Asuka. But speaking of which, we could have talked about Asuka tonight, about her going crazy on Twitter. But we're over almost an hour and a half into it, so we'll talk about that maybe next week. So I don't know. I'm just looking at like star power, star potential. Yes, when Vince's decisiveness, it means that certain people become stars and other people are destined to fail, but at least somebody's making a decision. It's an informed decision. It's a decision with vision, and you can see what he sees, at least to a degree. With Ryback, you can see what Vince saw. He was a big dude, muscles all over the place, opportunities for action figures, video games. It might have been marketable. Who knows that he was a fucking crackpot? Nobody had any idea. And you get the idea, okay, you see what Vince sees in him. Even if you disagree, you see what Vince sees. With Triple H, there's no telling, bro. There's just no telling. Like you see him really holding on tight to certain people, and you just kind of like, I don't get it. No, she didn't say that. She said that Stardom was trying to defeat her, it was probably a translation error. But what she's saying was that they were trying to eclipse her and make her diminish her star power because of the things that she had said before. And I think that's one of the reasons why I did not do it, is because I would have had to look up the Kana Manifesto, which is what got her all this heat in the first place, where she had wrote out all these reasons why women's wrestling in Japan sucks. And then and and that got her a lot of heat. And that's what she was talking about, though, that the Japanese media don't like her. And she was actually, hosting her own events and stuff like that because she had become that kind of level of a celebrity. I always liked Asuka, always a big fan. And she broke through in the United States. So she was already a big star in Japan, but she broke through in the United States. And she committed to the bit and she came and she made it, you know? Uh, so it's crazy that she might actually be more popular in the States than she is in Japan now. You know? And that's all from being on WWE TV and being a really, really good um, role player. You know, she could do the tag team stuff. She could do the in-ring stuff. She could be the world champion. She could be a tag champion. You know, they haven't quite found out how to do mid-card with Asuka yet because she's not really all that great on promos. But they'll figure it out eventually. Third right wing says, I want her to succeed. I guess he's talking about EO. But the whole spot with the garbage can on her head, jumping off the cage, not great. I I think she came back. I think EO and Asuka have attacked WWE with a different level of ferocity, you know, than most other women's wrestlers from Japan. I don't think Saray had it. I'm not sure Kairi Sane's got it. I think they attacked this shit with like they owning it. Whatever, no matter what it is, they're gonna own this shit. You know, they're gonna own it, and there's a certain level of respect that comes with that. And I always like that. I think you know when you look at EO, she had worked in Lucha Underground. I think she had even done some stuff with TNA, and she was not afraid to fail. You know, so she's like, "Fuck it, let's do it." And there's a certain level of commendability to it. AJ3 says LA Knight is probably the only token charisma guy Triple H is pushing. Is he really pushing him though? I mean, it took him forever just to get him to do this one thing with the Miz, and then he didn't even follow up with it. He just had the Miz talk. That was it. He didn't even bring LA Knight back to Raw. They didn't even do an insert promo or something where LA Knight cut a promo and then they showed it for Miz to respond to or something. You would have thought if they were really going with the guy, they would do more to have him work too many matches against Top Dollar. You know, they just don't do enough for me. They not. It doesn't feel like a push to me. It feels like he's spinning his wheels. That's just me though. Maybe I'm expecting too much. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I am. Ike the Don asked me the eternal question: why don't I like Kevin Owens? Oh my goodness! Look, there's quite a few things about Kevin Owens I don't like. I don't like the fact that Kevin Owens is he doesn't seem to understand what he's supposed to do in the ring. You know, like it really struck me when I think what is that match when he wrestled Jericho and Vince shit on it because you know Kevin Owens didn't know what he was didn't know how to work like a heel because he was doing like sentons and stuff like that, and that stuff always annoyed me. You know, when heels are trying to pop the crowd, it makes sense if you're a smaller wrestler, you're a cruiserweight, you're a Rey Mysterio or somebody like that. You want to be a cocky heel, and the Kevin Owens never, I think, grasped that. He always came across as being incredibly bland and somebody that like it's like broccoli. You're supposed to like Kevin Owens, and it's like, okay, what about him am I supposed to like? He's really good at promos. Is he? I can't think of any good Kevin Owens promos. You know, I can't think of a great one. You know, at all. He's a really good wrestler. Well, yeah, he has some really good matches with like John Cena and Sami Zayn. That would happen when you're on the Indies for 15 years. You get kind of good at it, but he just comes across like a guy who rolls out of bed, comes to work, does his job, doesn't stand out, or when he tries to stand out, it's for all the wrong reasons. And now when you look at like his promo stuff, he's achieved far more than I would have expected. I'm going to give him some credit. You know, him main event in WrestleMania against Stone Cold Steve Austin blew my fucking mind. I was like, oh my God, he is totally not worthy of that. But I mean, it's a different world. Different people have different views, you know? Of all the people for Stone Cold Steve Austin to have a match with, you picked Kevin Owens? Yikes! But there's nothing I can do about it. But I just don't like his style. I'm not really big on the indie wrestlers as is. You know, a lot of the indie wrestlers aren't really my thing anyway. But I just don't like his style of match. I don't like his promos. I don't think he has a really great personality. You know, I liked him in NXT when he was doing the prize fighter thing and he had betrayed Sami Zayn because I was familiar with it a little bit from Ring of Honor. But then once I took it out of the Ring of Honor context, I was like, what is he doing new? What is he doing different? I didn't see much, you know? And when they made him the champion, like the Universal Champion, I laughed out loud, bro. Because you could tell that was Triple H all over that. He literally did a storyline where he got handed the title by Triple H. And then summarily did nothing with it for months. And then he lost it to Goldberg. Oh no, Goldberg, why did he lose to Goldberg? Because Goldberg's a fucking star. And Kevin Owens looks like a gym teacher. A fat, out of shape gym teacher, by the way. So yeah, they did that. It was very unfortunate for Kevin Owens, but fuck, come on. Guy got to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin and Goldberg. Which has anybody in the modern business got to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin and Goldberg? No. Kevin Owens did, though. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. Real crazy stuff. Yeah, he has an indie mindset. And I don't know. I just don't like him. I just don't like the guy. You know. Why do I think William Regal was never world champion? Well, I don't think it was ever going to happen anyway. You know, he's a work rate guy. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. You know, do I think he could have, when he was king of the ring and stuff like that, could he have challenged for the title and been credible? Yes. But I don't think that he was ever going to be the top guy, especially not on the show with John Cena, not on the show with Randy Orton or Triple H. Great promo, great wrestler, okay body type, but I don't know. I think Darren Gordon-Hill nailed it when it comes to Kevin Owens. He's fucking Canadian. You know, it's hard. You know what? Outside of Bret Hart and maybe Edge, I seem to really shy away from Canadian wrestlers. I don't know. And maybe it's a personality thing where I don't know. Maybe some of the guys back in the past were like real badass Canadians, but modern day Canadians, I don't know, man. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm kidding, of course. It's not just because. Oh, I didn't do the Q&A tonight. I'm doing the Q&A next week. I'm gonna do the Q&A next week. Oh yeah, Kevin Owens definitely fat, and so is so is Keith Lee. I do like Jericho. That's why I'm saying like I was joking about Canadians. It's not because he's Canadian. He definitely is a fan. He's definitely a fan, kind of going after the fan audience. And he's one of those guys that the fans love him because he's like them. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's a certain level of success you can achieve with that mindset. I just don't subscribe to it. You know, I like for guys to put their own spin on wrestling. You know, even if it's a spin I don't like. You know, I think you should have some level of fandom when you become a wrestler. Because you at least should know what you're getting into. But all of these guys who've spent their teenage years watching tapes of Japanese pro wrestling. It's like, nah, you're probably not gonna get along, dog. It's like, but again, I've been to like YumaCon and stuff, and I've seen like hood dudes in Naruto, in full Naruto gear. But there is something that about seeing like I'm thinking of Eddie Kingston, of course, not Kevin Owens, but like when I read that Players Circle or Players article or whatever, and he was talking about his mom getting him Japanese wrestling tapes, I just kept thinking to myself like, yo, his dude was a nerd. Like he's a nerd. Like I think how much of a nerd you had to be to watch obscure Japanese wrestling. And you live in New York, where wrestling around the corner every damn day, and you rather get your shit from the Tokyo Dome. Like you are really niche at that point. There's nothing wrong with that though. It's just you're going to appeal to a different audience. When that's your inspiration, you appeal to a different audience. And I think the average Joe can't really be inspired by, somebody who is inspired by that kind of thing. And not to say, of course, you never can, because, of course, Bryan Danielson was a guy who just loves wrestling and all kinds of wrestling, and he will watch it all and participate in it all if he could. But he was a very special case. I think a lot of those guys are probably not good enough. If we just saying. There's just no way. I wouldn't be surprised if he got popped for real. Do you think Christian would be in the crowd for Edge? I think Christian would know of Edge's last match before anybody else does. I think he'd probably tell him. He'd probably be there in disguise or something. Like when Bayley went to Sasha's match, and when Sasha went to Trinity's match, they were in disguise. You could just hang out backstage, but they want to be in the crowd for it. So that was interesting. That's fun. I don't mind. I know that's supposedly like an unwritten rule about going to other people's shows and stuff like that, but I don't have a problem with it necessarily. Just don't be like Britt Baker and get on camera. Don't get a front row seat. Because then they're gonna put you on camera by accident, on purpose. It doesn't matter. But it is what it is. I think I had something else I wanted to talk about while we got like 30 more minutes before we hang it up. What is else that I want to talk about here? Let's see. Okay, so it was a Q&A from PW Insider. Yeah, the Highlanders got busted because they was on TNA Impact. And they got TNA put them on the Summer Jam screen, and then all of a sudden, whoop, they got fired. A TNA event at that. That team sucked, though. They sucked bad. All right, so this is Dave Shearer, his takedown of Meltzer again. He's always taking shots at Meltzer in the Q&As. That's why I love reading these things. So here's the question. About the latest dust-up with the Elite and CM Punk, Dave Meltzer said the following on his podcast. Quote, everyone believes that it's Punk. I'm sure that Tony will say it's not Punk, just like he did before. End quote. I have a few questions for you. This is to Dave Shearer. First, can you explain to Dave Meltzer what the word everyone means? Could you also explain to him that if he is sure that Tony will say it's not Punk, then he's just contradicting himself by saying that everyone will say it's Punk? And here is my real question. Do you think he knows that he is painting a picture that makes his friends and sources look blameless in this fiasco? Oof. So Dave Shearer responds, Dictionary.com defines the word everyone as every person. I have talked to numerous people in AEW that do not, quote, believe it's Punk. They believe that it's some or all of the Elite did things to Punk and he reacted. So that shoots down Dave's statement right there. And it's a great example of why we shouldn't speak in absolutes. Also, numerous AEW talents have publicly stated they don't believe the issue is all Punk. Like intelligent, fair human beings, they understand that there are two groups here that don't like each other, and both have done things that have escalated the situation. Punk shot at a press conference. That was preceded by Adam Page shooting on TV. Punk shot on Page after Saturday's collision went off the air. That was preceded by the Elite refusing to even speak with Punk. I lost my spot. Okay. Da-da-da-da. As noted in the ESPN article, and never even refuted by the Elite or their mini lieutenants. That was a nice little mini lieutenants. I could go on, but the point is there is no everyone, and anyone in this situation. There is blame to be placed on both sides. Clearly, Dave Meltzer either doesn't know the meaning of the word everyone, or he is purposefully skewing the narrative to fit the agenda that he wants to be the truth. Facts be damned. I find it very, very hard to believe that he doesn't know the meaning of the word everyone. I don't know why he has covered the story in the manner that he has, but to his audience, it has worked to paint Punk as the only person in the wrong here. And that is sad from a journalistic standpoint. In my opinion, when a reporter stops being fair and covering the whole story, not just covering facts that he wants to put forward, it's time to hang it up. I have heard Jim Cornette say he believes that Meltzer is covering the story in this manner to appeal to his audience. If that is the case, maybe he should read the previous question and see who is actually selling the merch for AEW, and if the goal is to cater to the larger audience, cater to them. Because earlier in the Q&A, somebody asked him about, people selling merchandise, and of course, CM Punk is selling more merchandise than everybody else. Meltzer, once again. The thing is, man, Meltzer and Alvarez have been backdooring the hell out of this thing, dog. I mean, they have been. For starters, everyone is a manner of speech. I think that too many times we get bogged down in these weird definitions. Like, what's the definition of everyone? It's like, come on. We know that every single person is not going to believe this way. It's just a a figure of speech. Relax, Dave. Shearer, relax. It's a figure of speech. But I get people's frustrations. The way Dave Meltzer has handled the CM Punk situation has not been kind to CM Punk. It has not been kind. It's been definitely kind to the Elite. But those are his friends. Those are his bros. His brochachos. Isn't that what MJF calls them? Brochacho? He's been covering it like a fan. He's been covering it like a objective observer. My tongue got tied there for a little bit. So, as an objective observer, I'm not a fan of anybody involved. It seems like a tit for tat situation. These guys don't like each other, and they're taking pot shots at each other in the media, and they're taking pot shots at each other in public, and that's just what they choose to do. People are going to have to get over it. It is what it is. Again, it's the equivalent of Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Those guys were taking shots at each other in promos. 90% of the people was missing it. They didn't know it. And like the whole Sunny Days thing, I had heard that promo 100 times before. I had no idea that he was in relevance to Bret supposedly having sex with Sunny. I didn't know that, But at the time, I didn't read the dirt sheets either. So I wasn't in on the digs. I didn't know what they were doing. But CM Punk has taken a couple of shots at the Elite. The start of Collision was with the counterfeit Bucks line. So he's been playing this role for a long time, and it's gotten people thinking that there's some kind of work to be done here. There is no work, man. There is no work. Unless they're going to have a match, there is no work. If you're not building to a match, it's not a work. So there's no match to be built to. These guys don't want to work together. They don't want anything to do with one another. And guess what? That's fine. I know people wants to try to force. Like, I don't think that the match is even that fucking interesting to try to force these guys to have it. It needs to be CMFTR versus the Elite. Like, And then what? They still don't like each other. And then what? You want to do it again? Now, Omega versus Punk, okay, you definitely should have done that, especially for Wembley. You definitely should have done that. That's a match that if you're going to have the biggest show that you could possibly have, that would have been your match to put on. You could have definitely had the Bucks and FTR earlier in the night and then Punk and Omega as the main event. That's definitely something you probably should have had. But ultimately, I don't think it's worth it. Like I don't like these guys enough to, I don't know how much of Tony Khan's money is tied up in this venture, but is it worth losing all your money because these fucking dudes don't want to do the right thing? It's not worth it. You got 200 other talent on the roster, man. You got too many other people to worry about. It ain't 1997, 1998 anymore. You can get away with, letting these dudes do whatever they want. Now, letting them run roughshod over your roster, no. I don't know what Punk was doing or what his position is or whatever, but him getting on everybody's nerves, he needs to fuck off, so comforter. They are safety blankets, right? They're each other's safety blanket. But I would imagine, again, that some of this stuff was probably talked about beforehand, where FTR Dax dropped his podcast, and it's just magical that he dropped his podcast at the same time he signed a new contract, and he got the match with the Young Bucks, which is what they wanted. Amazing how all of that managed to happen for him once he got rid of that podcast. Now his podcasting partner Matt Cohn is still on Twitter. He's still taking shots at the elite side and Meltzer and all of them, but that's because he's buddies with these dudes. Do I like Rene Dupree's podcast? I don't feel the need to listen to Rene Dupree. It's like that guy was in the business for like 3 years. He was in WWE for like 3 years. There's nothing that can be learned from him that I don't think so. And plus, every time I hear about Rene Dupree, it's something negative. I never hear anything positive about the fucking guy. Like Maven. Like Maven started his YouTube channel. I've heard nothing but positive things about it. Like when he did his breakdown of how he got paid as a wrestler, he was incredibly positive about it. He never once talked about how he was underpaid or yada yada yada. He gave facts and figures. He didn't go into like an excruciating amount of detail, but he gave you a really good idea of what a solid mid-carder could have made in the WWF at the time. Rene Dupree, just never hear anything negative, anything positive about the guy. It's always he hated this guy, he hated that guy, he didn't like this guy, he didn't like that guy didn't like him, they mistreated him. I'm just kind of like, oh God, shut up, who cares? Like, if he was producing something of note, I probably would have at least checked it out by now. But every time I see Rene Dupree's name pop up, it's been negative, So, but Maven, I came across that pretty much on my own. Ike the Don said the worst thing I heard Maven said was that Dean Malenko was a prick. He probably was because he was a producer or an agent or something like that. So maybe he was hard on him. He said he didn't like Shawn Michaels either. He said Shawn was Shawn. He wasn't a fan of Shawn Michaels. But I think that ultimately, I like Maven's approach. They need to rehire that guy, because I think Maven would be a great commentator or something, backstage interviewer or something, He speaks very well. I think he was a teacher or something before he got into wrestling. And so he speaks well, he's eloquent, he's positive. I don't see why you wouldn't bring that guy back into the fold to do something. Maybe he should be your play-by-play guy. Renee's poodle was more over than him. The crazy thing is, I actually thought Rene Dupree might become something because WWE wanted him to be something so bad. They didn't go as hard as they went with like John Cena or Randy Orton, but they kept him in the conversation. Like he kept like being a challenger for the U.S. title and matches with Booker T and Rob Van Dam. He was in the mix for a little while, even when he didn't have to be. But the one thing I remember about Maven, and whenever I say his name, I just think of his bushy eyebrows. Like that's the one thing that always jumps out at me. Every time somebody say the word Maven to me, I just think he had those bushy eyebrows for a while, and then it kind of went away. I don't know what he does these days outside of his YouTube channel, but his YouTube channel has been wildly successful, and I was really gravitated towards the episode of him talking about the money because I was really interested in that, and to hear him say that what he got paid, I was like, oh. Like, oof. He was of that ilk. I don't know what kind of ilk that is. Oh, Jindrak? Jindrak? What about Jindrak? What about that ilk? What about Jindrak and his ilk? What did he do? Outside of being a douche. Where is Mark Jindrak, by the way? Ooh. Let's see. Is there anything else here? Let's see. Do I have anything else here so far? Okie dokie. Brian Kendrick, he had a comment that he made about why cruiserweights don't work in WWE. I guess we could throw this in there to do the last 8 or 9 minutes on it. Brian Kendrick did an interview on the In the Room podcast. This is a transcription from Wrestling Inc. Cruiserweights aren't physically larger than life. I'm assuming that a lot of the reason that the general audience doesn't like cruiserweight wrestling and the reason that Vince McMahon hasn't pushed it in the past is because the average male audience member thinks that they can beat up a cruiserweight. What's the point of watching somebody compete when I think I can beat them up? Well, you know what? Most people don't think they can beat a cruiserweight boxer up or a bantamweight UFC fighter. But I think a cruiserweight wrestler is usually so undeniably, unyieldingly skinny that it actually becomes a viable reason why we shouldn't watch you guys. It's like you're a midget and I feel like I can kick your ass. Yeah, okay. Well, let's go with that. Why watch it? Like, that's the crazy thing because I've never heard anybody say that about smaller fighters in other sports. Like, nobody has ever said that they can beat up Jose Aldo or anything like that. But yeah, it's a good point. You look at a guy like Brian Kendrick, he's all skinny and shit. You're like, yeah, I could take him. I think I could take him. Darren Gordon-Hill is really on the Jindrak, Rene Dupree thing. Dupree with shades of Rusev Gunter seems like a WWE staple for him. He sucked. Rene Dupree didn't have enough charisma. It was really that simple. He didn't have. He looked good, but he had almost no charisma. He couldn't make what he had work for him. Unfortunate for him, but it is what it is. All right. Triple H. Oh shit. All right, y'all. Cruiserweight wrestlers. They're gonna get beat up. I mean, what cruiserweight wrestler did you see that you probably figure, I probably can't beat him up? I'm trying to think of one. Think of a cruiserweight wrestler out there that I probably would think would probably kick my ass. Maybe low key. Maybe. You know, I think if low key came at you quick, he could probably take you out. But yeah, I think I could pretty much wipe my feet with most of the X division at the time. Chad Gable, oh yeah, he's an Olympian. You definitely can't beat him. You can forget it. Um, he's technically a cruiserweight, I guess. Ilya Dragunov, I don't know. Could I take Dragunov? I think I would be scared of him. I think that if Dragunov got worked up on an elevator or in a hallway or something like that, you would be like, I don't know about that one, dog. He sounds like a crazy motherfucker that like break a glass over his head or something like that. Like he ready to go to jail at any minute, moment in time. I wouldn't fuck with him, but I don't know if I couldn't take him. Um, I'm pretty sure is Taz a cruiserweight. Taz is short. He also was pretty good at judo. I don't know if I could take Taz. In Ty Gordon's book, Taz wasn't necessarily a tough guy, but I'm not going to take Ty Gordon's word for it. But because Taz knew judo like legit and could probably really kick your ass. But there's a lot of, especially cruiserweights today. I think I probably could whip their asses. I think like 90% of the cruiserweight roster in NXT or whatever, I could probably take them. Wesley, definitely. He's a military guy, but I think I have a good chance. Nathan Fraser, definitely. Tyler Bate, definitely. Carmelo Hayes, definitely. Definitely could fight that nigga around and beat him up. Benoit? Maybe not on Benoit because he's got a grappling game. I suck at grappling, so I'm not so sure. I'm not so good at grappling, so I'll probably be in trouble there. Yeah, I'll kick the shit out of Darby Allin, and I feel like he'll do something screwed up that'll blow out my ACL or something like that. So I probably wouldn't want to fight him. But I think in a head-to-head fight, I could take Darby Allin. Danielson, I'm not so sure. Similar to Gulak, I think that these the technically proficient guys, I would have trauma for real. I probably would have trouble, especially if they're a grappler. That should give me a headache. That's the kind of guy to get you in a front face lock and you can't get out of it. That shit embarrassing, bro. I've done it to people. Trust me, it's embarrassing, especially when the person is bigger than you are. It's embarrassing. I studied a little bit of martial arts, not a lot, but they could probably take me. I think Hornswoggle. Oh yeah, definitely. You could probably tip him over like an egg, and he'll probably just roll back and forth and not be able to get up. But yeah, if you are 200 pounds, it's hard to get people to believe that you're larger than life, unless you have like a big personality. You got to be like Conor McGregor or something. But most of the cruiserweight wrestlers in the world, you look at them and you're like, man, I'll fuck him up. Unless they specifically have like some really good grappling or martial arts background, you probably got a shot. You got a puncher's chance at least. But you got like no chance versus like Chad Gable because he's like an Olympic level wrestler. You got no chance. You can forget it. If they're a collegiate level wrestler, you probably got no chance. High school level, you probably still don't got a chance, but your chances are better off than if you're, trying to box, one of these smaller guys who wrestle amateur. They probably got grip strength and all kind of stuff that's gonna fuck you over. So probably not. There's some fearsome little guys out there. Not a lot of them though. So the guy made a good point. That was a hell of a point. Yeah, I think 90% of the AEW roster. If CM Punk can beat you up, and that nigga ain't got squabbles for nothing, then yeah, I'm pretty sure I can handle you. if he beat up the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all those guys, I'm pretty sure I'll do okay. I would pay to see that fight. Fuck. You know what? I would pay money for somebody to drop the security video of that fight. My goodness. Oh man, that would be crazy. Rey Mysterio looks like everybody's friend. I don't know if I would fight Rey Mysterio. He looks like everybody's homeboy. I don't think he would want to get into a fight. I would be surprised if Rey Mysterio even raised his voice at somebody at this day and age. Jungle Boy, yeah, definitely. He'd kick his ass. Absolutely. I don't see any an iota of toughness in him. Same thing with Hook. I don't see any iota of toughness in him. I know he studied some judo, and maybe that'll give me a problem, especially if you get some leverage on me or something like that. That would suck. So maybe, I don't know how proficient he is at judo. You know, how proficient is he at judo? Because if he's a certain level of proficiency, he's probably too much. It's because they learn once they learn how to utilize your leverage and everything, you're fucked in the game. You probably can't do much to him at that point. Because if you throw a punch and he's got you by the leg, you're like, oh shit. MJF, you could probably beat up MJF for sure. I could see it. He doesn't come across as I think he was an amateur football player. Amateur football, college football, high school football player. I fought football players. It's not a fun experience. They're tough, but wrestlers and martial artists. I just don't fuck with them because it's a whole different ball game. And boxers, people who've been trained to their body to be weapons. They're difficult, man. They're difficult to deal with. So you better off just calling them names and walking away. And not, Ray is a good cruiserweight, not get beat up. Oh, okay. Yeah, Ray's a nice guy. I don't drink, but I'll probably have a Hornitos or something with Ray. that was weird. That was random. But yeah, I think you probably could take 90% of the cruiserweight roster. And that's really what wrestling is all about. You want to be able to look and see these guys and think that, man, that guy's tough. Not, I think I could kick his ass. I could take him. Because back in the day, they used to pull knives and hit people with D batteries and shit. They used to put batteries in socks because, these guys were big and dangerous and you didn't want to get, trade fisticuffs with fucking Bruiser Brody. This guy beat you to death, So you want to get the upper hand. You want to pull a knife on him, You don't want to turn around and have Bruiser Brody put his foot in your face. You don't want that. He's not fucking around. But some of these cruiserweight guys, yeah. Even with their extensive wrestling skills, they better be good at it. You got a puncher's chance against 100% of people, but not collegiate and Olympic level wrestlers. You got no chance at all because they'll learn how to take a punch and then they'll grab something and you're fucked and it's over. Unless you have trained in that too, it's over with for you. Because once they get their hands on you, there's almost no way to get loose. Especially if they start doing slick shit like using your clothes as weapons, like grabbing the collar of your shirt or like some Jackie Chan shit. You really in trouble, man. It's probably not a good idea to fight, people with highly athletic backgrounds. Probably not smart. Probably not smart to fight soldiers and stuff too, especially the crazy ones. They spend a lot of time working out, so they're strong at least. Even if their form and shit is not good, they're strong. And it's probably not a good day at the office. Even if you manage to get the upper hand, it's going to be harder than it should be. Harder than it's normally going to be. But I think most cruiserweights, you could probably take them. I think you could probably take most cruiserweights. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for y'all time, man. Next week, we're going to do the Q&A. So we're going to go through and look at you guys' answers. And we're probably going to do some more stuff next week. And then maybe the week after, we'll be the last week of. So either we'll do our monthly. Did we do? We did. Let me check. Let me check before I lie, because I'm not sure when we did the live stream where we watched New Blood Rising. Is it too soon to do another watch along? I think it's too soon. I think it's only been like 2 weeks. I want to at least get 3 weeks because I think the last Q&A was 2 weeks ago. Oh no, we did this year last week. Okay, so 2 weeks, and then we'll do another watch along. The Q&A, let's see, Q&A was 2 weeks ago, so that was July the 23rd, no, July 27th. All right, so next week it will be the 24th. So August 24th we'll do the Q&A, and then August 31st we'll do our live stream. 2 weeks is technically the first of next month. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I'll put it on my calendar. That's the one thing about changing jobs now is that I've learned the power of calendars. You know, I've learned the power of putting it on the calendar. Um, it's amazing how much time you save when you put stuff on your calendar. All right, the watch along. I will probably I'll come up with the choices then. 9 times out of 10, it'll be ECW or TNA because we did WCW already. But it's got to be a TNA pay per view that's already on YouTube. It can't be something that I have to pay to see because I'm certainly not about to buy a streaming service just to watch that. But if it's something that's already up on YouTube, then we can actually have to that. Ruthless Aggression. Let's do Ruthless Aggression. If we're gonna do WWF, we definitely gotta go older than. It has to be pre 2010, let's say. That would put us right in the Ruthless Aggression era. I guess if you got a good September show, then yeah. Darren Gordon-Hill got man. I have so many stupid meetings that pop up on my calendar throughout the day. I just be running around, man. I was watching fucking Power Rangers at work, and then next thing I know, I had 4 meetings in like 15 minutes. And I was like, oh my god. Out of nowhere, I was like, oh no, oh no, the printer doesn't even work. But yeah, I'm learning the power of calendar. So now I'm putting everything on the calendar, bro. Everything's going on my calendar. That's a hack. Cause I just try to remember everything, but I see that I can't do it. I'm gonna start trying to really schedule like the watch alongs and the Q&As and stuff, so I make sure I get it done and keep them spaced apart. Because I do have like stuff like tonight where I'm like, I don't have nothing to talk about. We could just do a Q&A or we could do a watch along. And then I'm like, damn, I just did a watch along last week. So can't do one so soon. Give people the opportunity to, I want to give you guys input into the next one. Because I know that last one was kind of a surprise. I just dropped that one on everybody. I wanted it to be something everybody could find, though. So think of TNA or ECW pay-per-views that are from September. Let's put it like that. Let's do a September show. So, or late August. Really late August, early September show. Or just September in general for the watch along. I'll probably start up something in the community tab because I don't know what events ECW used to have in September. I don't know, but it doesn't have to be September when it comes to TNA because they know they put up random pay-per-views and it's not always going to match up to the date. So if you see a TNA pay-per-view you haven't watched and you're like, hey, I haven't seen this before, let's do this, and maybe I have not seen it yet, and then we could do that. What about Unforgiven 2006 Xena versus Edge TLC? I'll put it committed to memory. Let's see, Cena versus Edge, TLC. That was September of 2006. Because it would have been, I think, because that was the end of their first part of their feud. I think that was September 2006. All right, we'll consider that. I think it's easy to do watch-alongs with the network, but TNA makes it easy too because they put that stuff up on YouTube. So I want to give them an opportunity to show some love too. So y'all think about stuff that y'all might want to do a Q&A on. I'll get ready to go to sleep. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.